Anointed warriors and ambassadors of God, or this universal power that's most commonly referred to as God. Welcome back to Mount Fitness MBS Ministry, where I am your host, Brother Minister Mongoose, and where this ministry is all about living and promoting a holistic mind, body, and spirit path to life, to health and wellness, and to fulfilling the race that He has set before us. This ministry firmly believes that when one is able to properly merge, balance, and synthesize their physical, mental, and spiritual potentials, then one is able to gain a higher, more refined connection with this universal power. And one is also strengthened to live a more purposeful and a more fulfilling lifestyle. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'll give you some information about the precise services that are utilized to achieve this goal. I'll also give you some information towards the end of the video about some disclosure, some very relevant disclosure type of information as it relates to myself personally. But for now, let me take another brief moment to officially welcome you guys to the channel. If it's your first time tuning in, if you are a long time viewer and subscriber, you know I guys send you guys out a special shout of love, thanks and appreciation. But again, if you're a first time viewer, long time subscriber and supporter, if you are anywhere in between those two categories, I value you. I really and truly do. Every single one of you I value. And I encourage every single one of you to make sure that you continue to always live a life that prioritizes faith over fear, truth over tradition, knowledge over nonsense, love over lust, and people over profit. Now that's what I got for you guys in terms of the opening. As you guys are familiar, this is, I believe, chapter 5 on an ongoing series where we're shedding the light on what's really taking place on this planet. If you haven't watched the previous 4 chapters, you're going to want to do that. If you are amongst this group of people who have awakened to the fact that, hey man, it is glaringly obvious that mankind has lost its way. It's glaringly apparent that the path that mankind is treading on is not sustainable. The hatred, the jealousy, the ridiculous laws, things that they are making legal and things that they are saying is not legal, all the upheaval, the skyrocketing, food and gas prices, the political tensions and upheavals, the looming, and increasing, potential for race wars. We know that path is not sustainable. It just isn't. And if you're one of those people who are amongst my spiritual family members and you have awakened to this path that mankind is on not being sustainable, but you aren't able to, or you just would like to get a different perspective. Maybe you already have a perspective based on your analysis, your research, your study, your connection with this thing called God. But maybe you're wanting a different perspective. Maybe you're wanting to fill in the blank somewhere. Maybe you want, some confirmation that the research or the study that you have is accurate. So that's the purpose of this whole entire series. And again, if you haven't watched the 4 previous chapters, please do so. Chapter 1 sets the table for it all. Chapter 2 talks about the age of Aquarius and the precession of equinox, and that being that's what's at the template of what's causing all these disturbances, these upheavals, people turning a blind eye and all these different things. So we talked about that in chapter 2. Chapter 3, we talked about the demons and all the different demonic energies that is, playing a role in it all. These are the people that the good book says will awaken to vessels of shame. These are the government powers and structures that are seeking to manipulate, this changing of the guard, if you will. And they're trying to control that, trying to manipulate that. And so we talked about all the different aspects and the different business entities, the different peoples, the different government, and all those things that are fighting with all they have to, to behold or to continue to, maintain the status quo. And then in chapter 4, we talked about the 144,000 and they being, amongst this group of people who awaken first, the 144,000. We talked about how you can recognize one or some of the signs that may be clear indications that you are possibly amongst them or possibly one yourself. And then we talked about the spiritual powers that would be gifted the 144,000. We talked about their position, their responsibilities. And now in this final chapter, we're going to talk about the chosen one and what's the difference between a member of the 144,000 and the chosen ones. And I did give a spoiler alert in that regards in chapter 4. But here in chapter 5, we're going to provide a little bit more detail and a little bit more clarity. None of these areas or these categories that are being addressed, none of them is a end all be all. None of them dots all the I's and crosses all the T's. All of them are intended to just put some information out there to help you on your quest, on your journey, when it comes to having a starting point. If you want to do more research, or having a starting point that maybe gives you some clarity, maybe gives you a different perspective, whatever the case may be. And always, if there's any follow-up questions or anything like that, if you'd like research material, study material, then I always leave that email link down in the description box. But it's important that you guys know that, because I don't want anybody thinking, well, I covered this, I covered that, and I didn't mention this, I didn't mention that, or I didn't detail this. It was never intended to, again, dot all the I's or cross all the T's. But again, that's the purpose of me always leaving that email address, so that if there's a situation where you have follow-up questions or whatnot, you can reach out by way of that email address. So at the close of chapter 4, we talked about the 144,000 and the different aspects that I just mentioned about them. I'm going to pick up right there as I transition into what we're talking about today, which is the chosen ones. But the 144,000, these are the people that awaken first. They are anointed, appointed, and assigned to spearhead, this the battle, the final battle between light and darkness, and they're responsible for having gone through everything that they've gone through and still going through at this present moment. They're responsible to continue to show love, to show humbleness, to show wisdom, to show courage, to show faith, to show forgiveness, to show tolerance, ultimately to show that this thing that we most commonly refer to as God is in control. And I want to clear up a couple of misconceptions about the 144,000 as I begin to transition into the chosen ones. Now, one of the main, or a couple of the main misconceptions is that the 144,000 are virgins in the sense, and because the good book does say that, but most people think that that's a virgin in the sense that they have never had sex. And this is being intentionally in a lot of cases, but sometimes, in an unintentional or perhaps even a foolish or unlearned way. Because the good book, when it says they are virgins, they're not talking about they haven't had sex. They're talking about virgins in that, in the Bible, women are used interchangeably with nations. There's several times, the various prophets said, come out from among her, don't go into her, talking about countries, talking about nations. So when the good book says they are virgin, they have not been defiled. This means they have not been defiled by the lands that they live in, by the religious teachings, by the gambling, by the corrupt laws that particular country, her, has put out. They were not defiled by it. In fact, they followed the lamb / the truth wherever it went. So if it didn't add up with their spirit, if it didn't add up with, their assignment, regardless of what was taking place with friends, with family, in vogue, culture, things of this nature, they wasn't defiled by it. So again, if you want to follow up details on that, reach out to this ministry. But it's important that I say that because oftentimes people that are in positions that, again, some know the truth, some don't, but these people are in position, and whether they are intentionally or unintentionally, they have a lot of people that have the potential to either, or not the potential, someone that may very well be a member of the 144,000, or someone who may be amongst, the chosen ones, the great multitude, and they may know someone or be, someone may have all the telltale signs of being a member of the 144,000, but based on the people that are in position, church, mosque, temple, synagogue, whatever, these people are promoting this notion, again, intentionally or unintentionally, that these people are virgins, in meaning that they've never had sex. And so whether it's a member, whether it's a person who is investigating, doing their research, studying prayer, trying to determine if whether or not they are a member of the 144,000, or if it's a person that may think they have encountered or know someone that's potentially a member of the 144,000, but when they do the research, they realize, oh, that person has had sex, that person has a wife, have kids, or maybe it's the person itself, and a person talked themselves out of the fact of who they truly are, because they've been taught that it's, the person 144,000 is a person that's never had sex, and that's again intentionally in a lot of cases. It's being put out there for the express purpose, for what I just said, to distract, to discourage, to misguide, mislead those who could actually be a member of the 144,000, as well as to cause those who may be researching or studying someone that they think could be a member of the 144,000, but again, they find out that person has had sex, and they pull out of that research, of that belief, and so the powers that be are sometimes intentionally putting that information out there. And again, sometimes people are just unlearned, and that's how it's getting out there. But that's one of the falsehoods when it comes to the 144,000. I'll talk about another one real brief that's widespread. The 144,000 guys, these people have a spiritual DNA that's required of them. This is what the good book says: before the earth was even formed, I knew you / he knew you. This universal power knew the 144,000. They knew them right off the bat. So they have a spiritual DNA before they're born. They're born into it. But then they also have a physical or biological type of, genetic type of DNA as it relates to mankind, humankind. All of the 144,000 are the descendants of the true Hebrew Israelites. Period. Now the chosen ones, we'll talk about that. That's not a prerequisite for them. But the members of the 144,000 have a spiritual lineage, and they have a physical, genetic bloodline, or physical DNA lineage and bloodline that can be traced back to the Holy Land of the true Hebrew Israelites. Those things are a given. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people thinking that, well, the Hebrewites, according to the Bible, they're going to come from out of Israel, and they're thinking about the land over there in the Middle East. They're thinking about some of the other places where Hebrew Israelites may gather, but the fact of the matter is Hebrew Israelites have been scattered amongst all the nations. So the 144,000 won't necessarily come out of the land of Israel, but their physical genetic DNA will trace back there. And of course, I just mentioned that about the spiritual DNA. Again, these are two things that are sometimes intentionally, sometimes not so intentionally being put out there to confuse those who are on a journey trying to determine if whether or not they are a member of the 144,000, as well as those who may be out there trying to research, trying to analyze. They may just be curious. They may think they've come across a member of the 144,000, but hey, that person doesn't. That person's not an Israeli because they didn't move from Israel, because they don't live in Israel, etc., etc. Again, follow-up questions, if you have them, hit me with that email link, and I'll dot the I's and cross the T's to the best of my God-given ability. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave that. I needed to put that in there because those are some very distinguishable traits that separate the 144,000 from the chosen ones. I mentioned in chapter 1 that the 144,000 are going to be more like the disciples of Christ. And all the disciples of Christ go through the bloodshed, the turmoil, the hardship, the loneliness, the crucifixion, whether it's a literal physical crucifixion or whether it's the crucifixion of their reputations, their heart, their emotions, their relationships, their reputation, etc., etc. There's a crucifixion, there's a cross that must be bared for all of the disciples of this person that we call Christ. And those disciples are the 144,000. And then the chosen ones, which I'm getting into now, these are the ones that are like just the day-to-day, if you will, followers of Christ. So, they believe in the teachings, they do, they follow the 10 Commandments, they work on being good people, being charitable, being uplifting, being kind-hearted, all the things that Christ, preached and talked about. But they are followers of Christ, they're not the actual disciples of Christ. And the difference, even more, or nuts and bolts, if you will, or the creme de la creme, if you will, when it comes to what makes the difference between the 144,000 and the chosen ones, is simple. The 144,000, everything about their life has been predestined. Everything about the 144,000's lives have been predestined. From the day they went outside at 3 years old and cut their foot on a rock, for the time when they were 8 years old and fell down the steps and hurt their arm, from the time that they were 20 and they met this person and wronged that person, from the time that they was 15, 25 and they met somebody, that person wronged them, the day they went to jail, the day they got on drugs, the day they got off of drugs, the day they got hired, the day they got fired, the day they gained weight, the day they lost weight, the day they moved on from a toxic relationship, the day they moved into a toxic relationship, the day they started a healthy relationship, and then that came to an end. Every single thing about the 144,000 lives has been written in the stars. These are literally the people that the good book says their footsteps are being ordered. Now, that's true to some extent when it comes to the chosen ones, but that's not precisely or 100% sealed by the stars before the foundation of the earth. It's only sealed by the stars before the foundation of the earth when it comes to the 144,000. They're not going to live one day longer. They're not going to die one day early. They're not going to get sick if it's not meant for them. They're going to recover when it's meant for them. The relationships, they're not going to have one more dime or one less dime than what's been predestined for them. So whether it's being beheaded, whether it's being excommunicated, whether it's not tasting death, because we know that there is Bible precedence. The good book says not all will taste death. We know that it was Elijah. We know that Enoch, and we know that Melchizedek. None of these men died. They went straight to heaven. So we talked about these cycles, how everything repeats itself, and I don't want to get back into that. I believe that's in chapter 2, where we talked about the age of Aquarius and how everything just repeats themselves. So the powers that will be given to the 144,000, these are the same powers that God's children had in previous cycles, if you will. Samson has supernatural strength and went out there and slayed 1,000 men with a jawbone, and these were well-armed men. These were the elite of the Roman, army. They had the spears, the knives, the swords, the helmets, the shields. They had everything they needed, and all he had was a jawbone, no spears, no nothing, and they slayed 1,000 of them. That's a supernatural power. So everything about the 144,000 has been predestined, period. Nobody can wrong them unless it's meant, when it's meant, how long the 144,000 suffer, how long they get over it. I mean, how long it takes for them to get over it, whether it's their own mistakes, whether it's betrayal, whether it's whatever. Every single thing, their footsteps have been ordered. And there's no changing that. Wherever they go, if they arrive at the job or at the wedding late, it was meant for them to be late. I don't care how hard they tried. I don't care what happened. It was meant for them to be late. If they arrive early, and so you comprehend the point that I'm making. The difference, so that's a major end-all, be-all difference between the 144,000 and the chosen ones, because the chosen ones fall up on this group, and we're all family members. The chosen ones fall up under this group that the good book refers to. It says, many are called, but few are chosen. So as we try to wrap this up, many are called, but few are chosen. What does that mean? That means friends, family, strangers, people on this side of the earth, on that part of the earth. Many are called. They're all going to get this same little tug on the shoulder that says, hey man, that way you're living, the way that society is trending, that law that they passed, the way you treat that person, the truth about why that person treats that person the way they do. Everybody, many are going to get that same calling, that same awakening that the 144,000 got. Remember, the 144,000 gets this awakening first. They get it first. They're the tip of the spear. But the chosen ones, the many are going to get that same calling after the 144,000 have received theirs. And there's nothing the 144,000 can do about it. When their awakening started, what they had to go through, they don't choose God. God chose them. The chosen ones do have a choice in the matter. Not everything in their life has been predestined. In fact, the chosen ones have a plan A, if you will, and a plan B. They get that call, they get that awakening, and they have a choice to follow that path all the way home, or follow that path a little bit and decide it's too hard, it's too crazy, it's too confusing. I had to leave my wife, leave my husband, leave the alcohol, whatever. They can follow it a little bit and it becomes too brutal, too lonely, whatever, and they have a choice to back out. Many are called, but few are chosen. From all of those who are called, only the ones that continue to persevere by free will. Remember, the 144,000 don't have a choice in the matter. They may think they do, and I've been there. We think we do. We think that it was us that decided. When we were going to move on from a relationship, it was us that decided that we're going to change careers. It was us that decided. So from a human standpoint, we may think we do, but we really don't. We may think that, well, this is why I chose God, and this is why I chose him at this time. Humanistically, it appears that way, but once we keep evolving, we realize that it was all predestined anyway. And there was only the illusion of choice. But when it comes to the 144,000, but when it comes to the chosen ones, they do have a choice. They could choose to answer that call or not. That's ultimately the biggest difference between the 144,000 and the chosen ones. You may know someone who started off walking this, what we'll refer to as a holy path. They started off, they put down the bottle, they stopped the fornicating, they stopped being rude, being a thug, being a racist, being prejudgmental. They started the path. But then they realized, man, their friends were walking out of their lives. They couldn't go to the club no more, whatever. And then they chose to not follow it any further, and they went back into the ways of the world. See, there's a choice there. Only those who endure till the end will be chosen. Only those who endure to the end will be chosen. And all along that path of loneliness, of despair, of confusion, of isolation, of struggle, the ridicule, the mockery, the shaming, every step of the way, the chosen ones have a choice to say, well, that's enough. I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. The chosen ones have a choice. But if they don't complete the task, then there are amongst those, that group where the good book says many are called. They got the call. But if they didn't dot the I's and cross the T's, they're not going to be chosen. Only those that go all the way, who truly follows the Lamb / the truth, wherever it goes, whatever it costs, those will be amongst his chosen people. And that's the difference between the chosen ones and the 144,000. That's the primary difference. Now, another primary difference, but that's the primary one right there in and of a nutshell. One group of people, it's predestined. They don't have no choice in the matter. They only have the illusion of choice. That's the 144,000. The chosen ones, they do have a choice. To fiddle-faddle around, to do it a little bit, to not do it at all, to answer the call, to delay the calls, to pause the calls, to fiddle-faddle with the calls and stop and then go back. They have choices in the matter. That's the primary difference between the two groups of these family members, all working towards the kingdom, all embodied, by the kingdom. Now, another huge difference between the two is because remember what I said about the 144,000, the spiritual DNA as well as their physical genetics and DNA. Remember what I said about that. The great multitude / the chosen ones, they don't have that spiritual DNA, and they don't have that their physical DNA doesn't have to trace back to the biblical Israelites. What they have, what the chosen one has in them, is the potential to activate that spiritual DNA. Remember, the 144,000, there's nothing they can do. If it's their predestined time, they'll start to awaken when they're 12. If it's their predestined time, they'll start to awaken when they're 112. It's not up to them. It's all been predestined. They have a spark in them that's been, its time released, and that time, that appointed time for its awakening, has been established since before the foundations of the earth were laid. The chosen ones and the great multitude, those that many are called and few are chosen, they've been given a seed, but it's optional. It's an optional activation. So they can activate it by walking away from the ways of the world, we'll call it that, and their seed can be activated. But then if there's more for them more steps that they have to take, self-development, being more charitable, being more courageous, whatever it is, being more humble, being more faithful, whatever it is, then the more and more they continue to choose to take those steps, which will be challenging, obviously, because the ways of the world, self-development is not really a real thing. Everybody's about self-destruction, whether they know it or not. So the chosen ones, they don't have that spiritual DNA. They have a seed for which they can grow and nourish that by way of Heavenly Father and by way of their actions. Also, their physical DNA does not trace back to the ancient, the biblical Israelites. The great multitude, the chosen ones, are amongst all races of people, all ethnicities, all religions, all races of people, and even all belief systems. So they could be Muslim, they could be Hinduists, they could be Christians. They have a spark that transcends those things, and all those things, the various religions, is just a means to an end. It's a different branch of the same tree that gets them to that point to where they have a choice to act, to follow on that, to answer that call or not. And again, many are called, but few are chosen. Not everyone is even called. This is why the good book doesn't say everybody is called. It said many are called. Some people are going to be blinded through life. They're not even going to get the call. They're going to be amongst the people where, being evil seems good to them. They don't know anything about good. They don't want to know anything about good. That's their lot in life. They're not even going to receive. They're not even going to be aware of a call. And then out of all of those who are aware of a call in their spirit, in their life, a lot of them are going to get the call and not answer the call, or answer the call and then abandon the call. Only those who keep pushing forward to the end will be chosen amongst those who got the call. And the great multitude makes up all of those who continued on, persisted on, regardless of the price, regardless of the cost. They persisted on, endured to the end, crowned with that glory. They go into this category of what we refer to as the great multitude, which is all people, all races, all ethnicities, all the different political views, all the different religions. Those people, that great group, great multitude, and 144,000 stands with them, stands amongst them as well. The only difference is the 144,000 are the leaders of that great multitude. And that's the difference between the 144,000 and the chosen one. And that's what makes up the great multitude, where the angel stood on the mountain and said he looked down and saw so many people that he couldn't count them. He didn't see just 144,000. He saw a great multitude made up of all colors, all races, all ethnicities, all different parts of the world. Because that spirit, for those who receive the call and endure it to the end and continue to nourish and grow that speed, that divine spark within them by way of Heavenly Father, they move right on into what we call the great multitude. And again, the 144,000 are the leaders in terms of spiritual warfare, in terms of any physical, and I'm not promoting violence or anything like that, but if there's they're the leaders, period, in whatever battle that needs to be fought. Being more charitable, being more forgiving, being more patient, being more tolerant, being more courageous, standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, mentally, physically, or spiritually. These are the assigned task of the 144,000 as they lead the great multitude, the ones who are chosen by God and who continue to go forward. So, again, not trying to dot all the I's or cross all the T's, but that's the difference between the 144,000 and the chosen ones, and that's who make up this thing that we call the great multitude, this thing that the Bible refers to as the great multitude. So any follow-up questions, reach out to this ministry. I love the opportunity to speak with you, to provide you with that information, whatever the case may be. But I trust that this entire series, chapters 1 through now chapter 5, provided you with some insights, some information, views, perspectives that way, if it's the will of this thing that we most commonly refer to as God, it'll spark you to, be more observant of yourself, to be more observant, not that you weren't in the first place, but you comprehend the point that I'm making. to keep your eyes open, to have a better understanding or more or a different view of an understanding of what's really taking place on this planet. Why do these people get treated this way when I never see them do anything bad? Why do I feel this way around this person? Why do I feel like I want to do better in life, but my spouse, my kids, my parents, they don't give a darn? What is going on? This is what's taking place. And again, the good book says that during these times, some will awaken to vessels of honor and other will awaken to vessels of shame. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. A crooked branch can be made straight, and a straight branch cannot be made crooked. It's all a part of his plan, and it's for us being amongst this spiritual group that we will call, his children. It's up to us to have an understanding and to use this understanding to walk in more love, more wisdom, more kindness, more understanding, more knowledge, more compassion, more empathy, more courage, more boldness, more tolerance, more forgiveness, all of these different things, particularly as it relates to the 144,000, because the chosen ones, even those who receive the call, they have to have some kind of essence, some kind of potential within them, or else they're not even get the call. So the people that get the call, whether they continue to pursue it, whether they ignore it initially, permanently, whatever, or whether they keep answering the call till the end, they're looking at the 144,000. Whether it's literally watching them, if they're so fortunate to have somebody like that in their life, or if they're just going through society and seeing and hearing and sensing in the spirit realm that there are people that are carrying their cross and they're leading the way when it comes to how a cross should be carried. They're being mocked, they're being shamed, they're being ridiculed, they're being laughed at, they're being misunderstood, prejudged, targeted, excommunicated, boycotted, all these different things. And yet, when I see them, when I hear about them, when I sense them, and this is the great multitude, or the chosen ones, or those who got the call, this is how they're looking and thinking and feeling when it comes to the 144,000. Without the 144,000, no one's going to be able to push through, because the 144,000 are the only examples on the entire planet that, yes, you can push through. And I'm leading the way for you to push through. You don't have to succumb to the madness. You don't have to sell out your integrity, your spiritual beliefs. You don't have to fit in. The 144,000 must lead by example. It's like the tip of the spear. Now, if the tip of the spear don't break it through, don't pierce the target, then how can the head or the shaft of the spear make it through? The spear must penetrate the target, and that's 144,000. So there's divine responsibility there. There's powers to help us achieve just that task as members of the 144,000. My spiritual brothers and sisters that are amongst the chosen ones, hey, it's your job to do your job. You're part of this army as well. You can't have leaders if there's nobody that they're making a path for. So you guys have to, buckle in, keep your arms and the legs inside the ride at all times. You guys have to be prepared too for the betrayal, the mockery, the shaming, the excommunication. And again, this is why some will receive the call and some won't accept it, or will walk it or accept it for so long and then opt out. So if you're really trying to go all the way with this thing that we most commonly refer to as God, know that it's not about your religion, it's not about your color, it's not about your education, your past mistakes, it's not about your political influence. It's about that power that you carry within you. You just have to keep walking that walk and continue to nourish that by walking that walk according to this thing that we call God. And this is how you continue to develop that divine spark within you, and you end up being amongst this group of those that we say gets to see heaven. Again, the 144,000, you don't even have to worry about it. You will be brutalized. You will be targeted. You will be betrayed. You will be excommunicated. You will be misunderstood. You will go through seasons of isolation. You may have little or no one in your inner circle. That's just what's been predestined for you. And the different things that have been predestined for the 144,000 are somewhat different in terms of their walk, their individual assignment within the kingdom. But all those things are par for the course. The loneliness, the isolation, the being misunderstood, the being prejudged, being laughed at, mocked, shamed, talked about, and of course making your own mistakes as well. All these things are par for the course. And it's all a part of, as I wrap this up, it's a part of what we talked about in chapter 2, the procession of the equinox slash what the mystics, what the shamans, what the philosophers would refer to as the age of Aquarius, and what the good book would refer to as his kingdom being established. But potato, that's what's going place on this. That's what's taking place on this earth. If you have any follow-up questions, if you like prayer, research, study material, what have you, reach out to this ministry. I'll leave an email link down in the description box. Now, just briefly, when it comes to the services that are provided by this ministry, these services, please go to a video that's titled MBS Service Tutorial. That's going to explain all the specific services that are utilized and provided by this ministry to help you attain that balance, that harmony, and the power that comes with balancing and synthesizing your mental, your physical, and your spiritual capabilities and potential. Again, the video message that talks about the specific services that are provided by this ministry to help you achieve that, what these services consist of, how they're implemented, and how exactly they can be beneficial to you and your family. All that information is mentioned in a video that's titled MBS Service Tutorial. Please also visit the physical fitness branch of the ministry located at mountfitnessmbs.com. Also, guys, please watch a video that'll give you some disclosure type of information about myself. That video is titled My Testimony and Disclosure. Check that out as well. And again, the email link will be down there for questions. If you'd like to schedule your initial consultation and evaluation in any or perhaps all of the services that are provided by this ministry, once you watch that video, again, schedule that consultation by way of email as well. I'm going to get out of here, guys, but let me ask you, did you find value in today's message? Because if you did, that's a clear indication that someone else can also find value in today's message. So please, reach over there and hit that share button, guys. It would definitely mean a lot to this ministry. And it may very well mean even more to someone else. They may get that message right when they needed it. So please, hit the share button. And then if the Holy Spirit moves you to do so, then also follow that up by hitting the thumbs up button, the thumbs up button, the subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications when I upload new messages. If the Holy Spirit moves you to make a monetary donation to show your thanks, your support, your generosity towards this ministry, I'm going to leave a Cash App link down in the description box. Guys, please know that no amount is too small. And then also know that in whatever way the Holy Spirit moves you to show your thanks, appreciation, and generosity, you will receive an abundant harvest, shaken down, pressed together, and running over. I speak that into your life by faith in accordance with his promise. So please receive it by faith as I simultaneously receive by faith your continued love, support, and generosity. Certainly last but not least, guys, hey, mind, body, and spirit ministry. Mind, body, and spirit. And that's to say that regardless of your age, regardless of your physical conditioning, regardless of the struggles that you're facing on your own personal path, I'm not making light of any of those things, but what I am doing is informing you in a very truthful, in a very sincere way that this ministry has been raised up, assigned, appointed, and anointed to help you make sure that regardless of those things, your mind, your body, and your spirit remains healthy, beautiful, and vibrant. So if there's anything that this ministry can do to help you mentally, physically, and or spiritually, reach out. I love the opportunity to hear from you, but I'm going to get out of there. I hope that you guys enjoyed the series. Hope that you guys continue to hit the share button, like, subscribe, continue to support the ministry. We're getting there, guys. You know, it's It's been a while, but we're getting there. So your support means the world to me. And remember, there's somebody else out there that's counting on your support, whether you know it or whether they know it. Again, they may just pick up that device, phone, computer, and that message right when they needed it the most is right there waiting on them. So thank you guys for supporting the ministry. Thank you guys for supporting others and humanity as well. Reach out if I can be of service to you. I'm going to get out of here. I am Brother Minister Mongoose, and I will holler back. Peace.